Everyone, welcome again. Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Colleen Cochran. I'm a senior sustainability consultant at Agendi. I'm so excited to be co-hosting this webinar today with our partners at Greenwood Consulting Group. Today, I am joined by Sarah Greenwood of Greenwood Consulting and our special guest, Dennis Williams from FIFA Forum. So a few housekeeping notes before we dive in. The session is being recorded, so the recording has started, and we will share that recording after the webinar. So no need to stress if you miss anything. We will follow up with slides and the recording. You'll also see that the chat function is disabled, but there is a Q&A function. So as you have questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to utilize that feature, and then we'll spend some time at the end going through any of our questions. And we'll also close out with our contact information in case you have any more questions. But yes, as Sarah just mentioned, we have a lot of people on the call from a diverse array of attendees. I think we've got some venues and stadiums, of course, but also sports teams and orgs and academic institutions, sustainability groups. So we're so excited that you're all here, and thank you for spending your morning or afternoon with us. So with the FIFA World Cup coming to North America in 2026, sports venues across the United States, Mexico, and Canada are being called on to align with FIFA's sustainability goals, which are addressing emissions, resource efficiency, and social responsibility. Thus, the goal of today's session is to discuss how can venues effectively prepare to meet these goals while also positioning themselves for long-term success and sustainability. So today, using FIFA 2026 as a case study, we'll explore how sustainability certifications don't just meet requirements, but can also deliver operational efficiencies, cost savings, and a competitive edge for attracting future events. So we're going to cover all of that today through the following agenda, which will start off with discussing the unique challenges of sustainability at a sports venue. And then we'll go into actually covering what are FIFA's sustainability goals for 2026, and then talk about the solution. So how LEED certification can serve as a framework to meet these goals, as well as navigating a sustainable event management system through ISO and other sustainability best practices. Then we will hear a case study to really illustrate how these certifications serve venues and organizations from Dennis on the Bucks experience at FIFA Forum on completing LEED recertification. And then, of course, again, we'll close out with Q&A. So again, today's session is hosted by Agendi and Greenwood. Agendi is a specialized sustainability firm providing consultancy services to organizations across size and industry, from sports teams to Fortune 500 companies. We support our clients through knowledge and capacity building, helping them understand their impact, supporting strategic planning, enabling action, and as well as assisting them in reporting and disclosures. So this broad scope of work includes a myriad of things such as greenhouse gas calculations, waste audits, materiality assessments, and defining net zero strategies, as well as plans on achieving long-term commitments. At Agendi, we also aim to practice what we preach. So we are a B Corp certified institution, as well as an accredited partner of CDP, and we have our own science-based emissions reduction targets. We also disclose to EcoVadis and serve as a certified training partner. And lastly, we are also a proud member of the Green Sports Alliance and also a super proud partner with Greenwood. So I'm excited to now pass things over to Sarah to introduce herself.
Thanks, Colleen. Nice to be here. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Greenwood Consulting Group. We are a sustainability consulting firm focusing in three key areas: high-performance buildings, sustainable strategy and reporting, and sustainable business initiatives. The majority of our work has been in the space of helping projects achieve their sustainability goals on the building level, so managing green and healthy building certifications and developing strategies to achieve climate neutral goals as well. So our team brings over 20 years of experience managing projects that are in this industry, and we have insight into emerging green and healthy building best practices. In addition, we are located around the country. Our team is located nationwide, and our projects are located nationwide. We've helped to inform updates to codes and standards, including the LEED rating system and well building standard. I'm personally a LEED fellow. I'm also a well faculty. In addition, our team has credentials above and beyond this. We've worked on projects pursuing LEED and Fitwell, living building, well, sites, and then some. We're really excited to share some of our expertise with you in this session and hope that you can engage with us as time goes on and reach out if you have questions in the future. In particular, our demonstrated experience working on the very first professional women's stadium, which was the Kansas City Currents Stadium, which achieved LEED Gold certification, is a proud accomplishment for our firm and for the city of Kansas City. We share insight with that and look forward to talking about that in the coming slides. So without further ado, let's dive in, Colleen.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. So before we really dive into our main content for today, we want to set the stage as to why achieving sustainability in sports and venues can sometimes be challenging. So, as I mentioned earlier, at Agendi, we work with organizations across industries, and engaging on climate and sustainability, no matter the industry or project, requires stakeholder engagement, as sustainability is such an intersectional goal that touches so many parts of an organization. And so, again, while this is true across industries, in our experience, the challenges of navigating competing stakeholder expectations is especially prominent for venues and in sports. So, starting with thinking about the venue operators and owners, they set the sustainability vision, but they're also balancing financial constraints, operational demands, and partner expectations. Then there's sports teams and leagues who are the primary tenants that shape a lot of operations and brandings. And some leagues and teams also have their own sustainability requirements that venues must align with. You can also have event organizers like Billie Eilish concerts or tournaments like the FIFA World Cup, of course, that may come to venues and have specific sustainability criteria to secure contracts. Also have sports and corporate partners that may put constraints on branding and procurement, but they might also have a venue's commitment to sustainability, may also help to attract major sponsorship deals. Then there's also fans and attendees, which have their own sustainability expectations, but also their actions like recycling and transit habits impact the sustainability of a venue. And lastly, but I'm sure we're missing quite a few, when we've worked with venues, we've also seen that cities and local governments can have expectations, such as requirements for venues to meet waste diversion rates, or also cities have provided incentives for other sustainability and community actions. But Sarah, I think stakeholder engagement is just one of the challenges for navigating sustainability at a venue. And could you touch on some other challenges that you've seen at venues when working on sustainability projects?
Sure, I'll do my best. I mean, you're right. There are some challenges. And if I had to boil it down to a few, I'd say that coordinating our approach across disciplines and aligning the critical priorities to success is really important and a fundamental area that we try to work through up front. And so there are a lot of moving parts. And we find that a core team of decision makers to help move the process along in a more coordinated way is strategic and necessary to overcome some of these challenges. And then having champions that can have specialties and different initiatives and strategies is also really helpful. So knowing who to go for to resolve any conflicting priorities or move the needle forward. So as some facilities are more aged facilities and we need to handle certain deferred maintenance, and that can also be an opportunity. We're also working with concessions and contracts with concessionaires, sometimes working together to meet what is required for FIFA can open up some unique opportunities and challenges along the way, particularly with concessionaires and other retail vendors. Cost is what it all comes down to. I'd say it's everyone's, front of mind, how can we do what we need to and stay cost positive. So that's something that we're always looking to do. And I think by planning early, we can really get there. So let's take a look at what FIFA has to say
Great.
as
Yeah.
far as sustainability goals. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that we've now thoroughly established that implementing sustainability at a venue can be challenging. But so, yeah, let's talk about some of the opportunities for climate impact and sustainability at a venue, starting with events more broadly, like the upcoming FIFA World Cup. So, the FIFA World Cup is the world's largest sporting event, bringing together teams and fans from across the globe. 48 teams will play 104 matches at 16 stadiums located in Canada, Mexico, and the US. So, more teams and more matches and more host cities certainly brings new challenges and responsibilities, but also opportunities that FIFA is committed to addressing with a people and environment centered approach. And to do so, FIFA is also calling on venues and host communities to implement ambitious sustainability goals like LEED certification. So, the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar saw a record attendance of 3.4 million spectators, with also over 5 billion people engaging through broadcast and digital platforms. So, beyond the game itself, the tournament is significantly influences tourism, infrastructure, and global commercial exchange. And despite the commercial success and influence of the 2022 games, it also came with its challenges. The 2022 World Cup was the first one marketed as the first carbon neutral World Cup, but there were assessments questioned the accuracy of carbon offset claims. And despite significant sustainability efforts, concerns still remained about water consumption and energy use and stadium coolings and fan travel. So FIFA is continuing to work to define its ESG strategies or environmental, social, and governance in future tournaments, which presents a lot of opportunities for 2026, such as lower carbon footprint by using existing stadiums instead of building new ones and improving the sustainability of those stadiums, stronger environmental policies enforced by host nations and cities to align with sustainability goals, and improved accountability and stricter emissions tracking, reporting, and commitments. And lastly, with such a large global audience, centering sustainability at the World Cup has a large potential to influence much larger climate action and dialogue. So to seize these opportunities in 2026, FIFA has released more detailed goals to increase this positive impact. But Sarah, I'll pass it back to you to talk through exactly what those goals are.
Yeah, I love the impact. I think that's exactly spot on. So, according to research that we've done, 4 in 5 consumers actually state that sustainability, health, and wellness benefits are important to them when choosing a brand. And 70% stated that they would actually pay a premium to support a sustainable brand. And so, if you consider the fact that leagues and governing bodies like the NFL, NHL, MLB, college football, and FIFA take action to align and to shift their consumer behavior around sustainable best practices, if you just stop and think about it, if your values align with your favorite team, you will not only follow them on social media, but you will further your loyalty as a fan. And so FIFA recognizes this and has seized it through the 2026 environmental pillars, which I'm about to cover here. So it really is a tremendous opportunity for venues and for host cities to develop and implement an environmental plan together. The plan enables host cities and stadiums to design and pursue their environmental objectives for the tournament, ensuring high-level commitments and political support. The environmental plans have 2 main implementation components. The first is that FIFA's environmental requirements are to be met, which I'll get to in a moment. The second is to include strategies that will enable the hosting entities of the World Cup that they can leverage in order to accelerate planning and implementation of environmental projects. So the overarching goal of the environmental pillar is to reduce environmental impacts, raise climate awareness, and I'm going to cover the 7 pillars in a little bit more detail here. So to start, in order to foster a more sustainable infrastructure and operations, stadiums are encouraged to pursue sustainable building certification. This pertains to new buildings, renovations. There's also temporary infrastructure, which should follow these environmental recommendations. Operations training and feedback enables information sharing among stakeholders, and it is involved in delivering and managing tournament sites. So likely temporary power will be needed on some tour sites. Some consultants that, or as consultants, we analyze the sustainable operations and features of stadiums and share information with site owners to promote sustainable operations. The last aspect here is to procure building materials that will increase resource efficiency and reduce negative environmental impacts. So by identifying locally sourced materials and even temporary leasing certain materials that can be reused at a later date, that's recommended. Finding materials that have environmental transparency, like EPDs, that pertains to carbon impact. An EPD is an environmental product disclosure. That's recommended. The second objective is to measure and mitigate tournament climate impacts as per the FIFA climate strategy. This is substantial. Those cities that have an existing climate action plan have an advantage, and it's really useful. The FIFA hosts are to develop a GHG emissions inventory for the tournament. No other guidance is really specified. So we suggest that venues identify projects, improve their energy efficiency, all the low-hanging fruit, right? LED lighting, smart energy management systems, and other basic measures to start. Then explore the use of renewables, whether on-site or off-site. Optimize temporary power solutions. Make sure that they're sustainably sourced. And procure products and materials that are also locally sourced, as I mentioned, so that transparency and carbon impact are also rewarded. Lastly, host cities ought to promote alternative transportation and include public transit, cycling, walkability, and communicate that out to the fan base. Low emitting fleet is also encouraged by FIFA. When we consider the importance of air quality and the fact that we have athletes and fans in this space, after all, it's really worth stopping and considering all the potential hazards associated and what we could do about it. So I mentioned temporary power generators and other solutions using redundant supply and prioritizing clean technology. Also, low emitting fueled vehicles, buses to lower airborne pollutants near tournaments, encouraging all forms of alternative transportation and carpooling. Seems basic, but it takes an effort and it takes a lot of coordination both with the host city and the venues. The next objective is to reduce waste while promoting and implementing circular resource management. And waste is a huge opportunity. And FIFA takes note of this. And I'll dig into this a little bit more in a future slide, but FIFA definitely suggests establishing guidelines to reduce waste and to follow circular economy principles. Developing solutions for sorting waste streams, repurposing equipment and other materials for the tournament, composting food waste if possible, and recycling are all fundamental to this. When we think about a circular economy, the main idea is that we focus on the recycling. Before focusing on recycling and composting, we start at the top of the zero waste pyramid. What can be reduced in the first place? And are there opportunities to reuse or donate food waste at the end of a day? So working with food vendors is also really valuable. Note, there are some considerations around composting, which I won't get into right this moment, but certainly, working with procurement and trying to minimize the need for utensils and food condiment packets. Of course, no straws. Those are really basic ways in which we start the conversation around waste reduction to begin with. The fifth objective is to promote water efficiency, and so both considering in bathrooms and kitchens as well as outdoor in the pitch and the surrounding grounds. So having low flow fixtures can not only save venues money, but it can save water. And so installing aerators on lavatories and bathrooms, for example, is a really basic way in which you could save water up to 30% usage on a typical fixture. So stadiums are encouraged to implement these efficient strategies as much as possible. The last two objectives here, starting with protecting and promoting biodiversity and animal rights affected by the tournament, has to do with involving host cities, and that they're encouraged to consider the local flora and fauna that may be impacted by the tournament and address it responsibly. Last, raising awareness. This is the fun one, I think. So seizing the prime opportunity to have your captive audience of millions of spectators understand and share and celebrate in what it is you're trying to convey in terms of environmental responsibility. If you just stop and think of the possibilities when it comes to raising this awareness on imminent climate action needs, it's endless. So host cities get to promote sustainable tourism and work with local hotels and transit authorities and retailers and the community at large to achieve and celebrate these accomplishments. So now I'm going to explain how LEED for existing buildings can be used as a means to implement the goals I just addressed. And I'll say, as consultants, we always start with setting our goals with our clients and around energy, water, waste, etc., to then create a pathway towards accomplishing that. So venues are stepping up to drive environmental change with the help of FIFA. And I'm happy to say that LEED for existing buildings, operations, and maintenance is one way in which we can do that. LEED, I'm sure most of you know this, stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's the most internationally recognized green building rating system. It's existed for over 25 years. To date, over 1.5 billion square feet of space has been certified. And you can see on this screen, the V4.1 certification boils down to these main dynamic components. So energy, water, waste, transportation, and human experience, which I'll get to here in a moment. The projects that do go through certification get anywhere from certified, silver, gold, or platinum status. By tracking your usage and performance, you not only get to see in real time how your stadium is performing, but you can then better manage it. And so if we go to the next slide, you can see how projects compare with regard to new versus recertification. So let me explain that. Stadiums can, or any building, can actually go through new construction certification, or at any time, as long as they have at least a year's worth of data, go through existing building certification. And the idea is that you would recertify every 3 years. So whether you've been certified in the past or this is your first time going through the process, in both cases, tracking your utility data over at least a year's worth of time. We recommend longer. And then tracking annually to maintain those requirements is necessary. Conducting occupant surveys to assess their comfort in the space and health and other indoor environmental qualities is also necessary. If you've never certified your building, there are some prerequisites. And so we cover those first, doing an energy audit, checking refrigerant management, ventilation, and other basic sustainable policies addressing purchasing and facility maintenance and renovations, environmental tobacco smoke control, green housekeeping, and pest management. Then if you meet those minimum prerequisites, you have up to 10 points that can be achieved above and beyond towards certification. Buildings that have previously been certified and aim to recertify are helping to tell ownership and those responsible that the building is in fact performing as it was designed and as they want it to. So it's a great opportunity to see if that checks out. So great monitoring. I'm going to walk through sort of some of the how the FIFA goals align with LEED specifically. And starting with air pollution, there are ways in which air quality can be improved as far as energy sourcing, energy efficiency building systems, associated emissions with transit, housekeeping, maintenance best practices, and then distancing environmental tobacco smoke at least 25 feet away from entrances of the building, meeting ventilation requirements according to ASHRAE 62.1, and conducting air quality testing. The second goal, LEED provides a pathway to reduce waste through strategic building operations. If you don't have a good handle on your waste streams by volume for your facility, do a waste audit. Achieving zero waste goals through extensive recycling and composting programs is recommended. True zero waste certification is another rating system that can be completed for those dedicated to this particular mission. And I won't get into it much more, but I will say that, these facilities generate so much waste. And since the average stadium throws away approximately 5.4 million cups annually, and 30 to 40 tons on average waste is generated at a typical football game, we can do better. The sky's the limit. And there's lots of great precedent and resources, including, I'll put a plug out there for the Green Sports Alliance. They have some great resources and playbooks focused on waste as well. I'll tell you a quick story. So we worked on the Kansas City Current and helped them on the construction of their new facility, which achieved LEED Gold. In the construction process, we also met with the operations team to ensure that the buildings would be designed to meet their zero waste goals down the road. And so we put certain best practices in place in design intentionally. And there are no zero single-use plastics. There are reusable cups, and the communication is really clear throughout the stadium. Okay, I'll move on now. Water. Tracking water use for all fixtures and irrigation is a good means to understanding if your facility is performing better or comparable to other similar facilities. As I mentioned earlier, installing aerators can save a lot of water. This may be a time to swap out older performing fixtures. Protecting and promoting biodiversity, not the easiest, but take a look at what is threatened in your community and aim to minimize any toxins that could be generated from the tournament, whether it's on the grounds, pest usage, or things of that nature. And lastly, raise awareness. You have a captive audience here, literally. Fan engagement can be creative, it can be fun. And for example, we can do signage and have zero waste campaigns on game day to help direct fans to incentives, limit giveaways. Instead, consider waste reducing prizes like consumables such as ice cream or web-based opportunities. So celebrate your certifications if you get them and report out the impacts for futures that you achieve and leave it behind. So yeah, back to you, Colleen.
Yeah, I love that closing. Thank you, Sarah. So I think what Sarah has just really thoroughly outlined how LEED provides a perfect framework for meeting FIFA's goals and improving operational efficiencies at a venue. I'd like to now introduce another framework that aligns with these goals while further positioning organizations for long-term sustainability success. And that framework is ISO 2112. So ISO 2112 is an international standard for sustainable event management. It provides a framework for organizations to improve the sustainability of their events by reducing environmental impact, promoting social responsibility, and also ensuring economic viability. So if you're wondering what the significance of these numbers are or struggling to pronounce of the 2112, it is helpful to know that the standard was actually introduced in 2012 ahead of the London Olympics, and it's used globally now to make events more sustainable. The 2024 update refines the standard to reflect more modern sustainability practices, So that is why you'll also sometimes see ISO 2012 2024. You may have also heard of an ESMS, which is an Event Sustainability Management System. And that's what this ISO framework is providing guidance on. And so, yes, if there's one thing that we love in sustainability, it's acronyms, but hopefully we've helped to demystify ISO and ESMS here. So some of the key aspects of ISO 21121 is that it makes such an incredible framework for success and meeting sustainability goals like FIFA, as it really focuses on holistic sustainability. So it covers both environmental, social, and economic sustainability, and also provides a really great framework for focusing on identifying your risks and opportunities when it comes to sustainability. The standard is also event specific. So it's designed for any organization that's involved in event planning, from sports venues to conferences. And my favorite part of the standard is its emphasis on stakeholder engagement. As we already established at the beginning of the call, stakeholder engagement is so key to successful sustainability at a venue. And lastly, the framework emphasizes continuous improvement. So ISO uses a management system approach to ensure long-term sustainability gains. And they do this through a cycle called PDCA, or the Plan, Do, Check, Act, which is a continuous improvement framework to ensure organizations systematically plan, implement, monitor, and improve their sustainability efforts over time to help drive that long-term success and to really go above and beyond that one-time event compliance that will create a strategy that will fit into any future event and hopefully improve over time. So I'm now just going to kind of quickly talk through what is entailed in each of those plan, do, check, act cycles. So starting with planning, that's the first step, which really focuses on defining your sustainability priorities and goals. So perhaps they're the goals that are aligned with FIFA that Sarah outlined, or they're the requirements of the city that you operate in. And you could have guessed it, but also stakeholder identification is a foundational step of the process. So identifying context of those key groups we discussed at the top of the webinar and developing your action plan. So actually putting in place your sustainability policy and defining key performance indicators, or KPIs, that could also be related to things like LEED achievement, like energy or waste reduction targets. And lastly, in this phase, you're also going to want to assign and communicate roles and responsibilities for implementing this plan. Next, we move on to the action step, or do. So this here is actually implementing the plan across event operations. So training staff, vendors, and fans on the sustainability plans in place. You'll want to create and maintain documentation and procedures for the plan and apply operational controls and supply chain measurements on these goals. Then moving into check, which I think check is really slightly unique to ISO and involves monitoring the performance of the plan you put in place. So kind of similar to what Sarah outlined before as the LEED performance period. Here, what we're seeing is let's actually do the event with this plan and see how it goes. So this could involve tracking KPIs established, so measuring that water, waste, and energy at events, conducting fan and vendor surveys to assess engagement, and also performing an actual internal audit with management review to ensure compliance with the ISO 2012-1 guidelines. Lastly, we're going to have ACT. So that's the last step in the continuous improvement cycle. So in the ACT section, we're going to focus on identifying areas for improvement and nonconformities with that internal audit that you might have just conducted to make sure that it's complying with that ISO framework. So based on the results of your surveys, audits, and KPIs, ensuring that you are meeting the sustainability goals and plan that you initially put out in place. From there, you can implement actions to drive continuous improvements. If you're not meeting it, like potentially adjusting vendor policies to phase out plastic to meet your goals, if some of your goals at the beginning were plastic or zero waste goals, and to ensure you're continuing to do, check, and act for continuous improvement. So I think that the ISO Event Sustainability Management System model that we just went through provides a really great framework to put together an event sustainability management system. But so at Agendi, we try to refine that process into some concrete steps that set you up to achieve that ISO certification and again, drive you for that long-term success when it comes to all of your sustainability initiatives. So in many projects, and especially in this one, we always start with a gap analysis to evaluate your current operations against applicable requirements like FIFA, league, city, or internal goals to pinpoint the areas where that system can add value. And to identify all of the great work that you're probably already doing that may have gone undocumented or not measured. And then, of course, again, stakeholder mapping. So identifying all of those relevant parties, both internal and external, whose requirements and insights will shape the plan and define roles and responsibilities. Oops, sorry, I accidentally advanced here. Uh, Going back one slide. Sorry, we still have more steps, unfortunately. So after stakeholder mapping, we'll begin a preliminary ESG scoping. So you may have noticed that a lot was wrapped up in that first plan phase that I mentioned. So we're trying to break that down further for you. So we suggest developing an initial list of 15 to 20 material topics, risks, and opportunities to help you create a mission statement to establish guiding framework that will actually help you to craft that plan and form your event management system. So essentially here we're almost conducting a materiality assessment to ensure that what you end up focusing on in that plan is actually impactful for your venue, stakeholders, and the impact that you will have on the surrounding environment and community. And then we'll validate all of this through surveys, interviews, and workshops to better understand their needs and priorities. And then from there, you're ready to draft your plan. So make sure that it includes those KPIs and a robust governance frameworks to put into action. And then we'll move into that check phase. So conducting training sessions and monitoring. And then lastly, after that performance period and tracking, conducting that internal audit and taking any corrective actions to make sure that your plan is set up for success and also third-party certification. So that's really the ISO framework in a nutshell. But one of the really great things about this framework is that it not only sets you up for any future events, but also future sustainability initiatives. So at Agendi, we often talk about how measuring your greenhouse gas emissions is the foundation of any other climate and ESG work. But we think for venues and organizations that host events, ISO and LEED can actually be really great steps even before emissions calculations to help better prepare you. Because both of these frameworks will help you to collect the data that you need, engage with the right departments, and ultimately reduce your emissions over time by implementing ISO and LEED. So thinking about greenhouse gas calculations, the Greenhouse Gas Protocol provides guidance to calculate scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. The Green Sports Alliance provides some great tools. Sarah mentioned some of them earlier, such as their energy and decarbonization playbook. They also have an upcoming strategy playbook, which Agendi was proud to contribute to, that really breaks down greenhouse gas emissions tracking for venues specifically. And then from there, ISO and greenhouse gas emissions enable you to report and disclose your impact by replying to disclosure frameworks like CDP or regulatory or customer requests. Then measuring your emissions and putting a sustainability plan in place are also the foundation of target setting and reducing your impact. So will help to position you to set science-based targets on emission reductions, or as Sarah mentioned, achieve zero waste reductions through Choose Zero. I think all of this here further demonstrates how ISO can help get your organization up for long-term sustainability success. So to kind of bring it all together here, to just reiterate a little bit more about why we chose to focus on LEED and ISO today. Again, they're really great frameworks for long-term success and also the FIFA goals, but they're also really complementary certifications that can be done at the same time. So here, what we're trying to outline is that instead of managing separate sustainability initiatives, venues can leverage these overlapping requirements to save time and resources. So this timeline here kind of shows how they can be done in parallel. You'll see at the end, we have that finish line of the FIFA World Cup, which is kicking off in June 2026. So you can start both of these certifications with a joint kickoff and gap analysis, and stakeholder engagement to look at sustainability holistically and engage the right people on both LEED and ISO. And then from there, the LEED and ISO planning and implementation can begin, where you have those complementary performance periods for both LEED and ISO. And then the most exciting part is that you can communicate and celebrate both of these achievements at the same time, and also engage in future planning to have that continual success of both these certifications. So I think we've covered the how of how you can complete both ISO and LEED, but I think Sarah and I would like to close out a little bit with the why before we pass things off to Dennis. So integrating both ISO and LEED help to lay the foundation for a stronger and more comprehensive sustainability strategy. And as we've mentioned, can help set you up for even further events and also other sustainability initiatives. Doing these two together will help to reduce redundancy, maximize cost, and also maximize impact. So both frameworks involve stakeholder engagement and impact assessments. So instead of engaging those stakeholders separately, you can do them together, ensuring that you have buy-in from sponsors, vendors, and fans all at once. Project team and stakeholder training, you can also engage the same project team to create one comprehensive training program. And both certifications will also set you up for improved procurement and waste management practices. ISO and LEED also require data tracking, impact assessments, and reporting. So by aligning them, venues can use that same sustainability data to fulfill multiple reporting requirements. Of course, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and environmental impact. Really, it's great because you'll have LEED driving those building emissions, like energy emissions, while also ISO will be focusing on your event emissions, like transportation and supply chain. So helping to really holistically address your entire carbon footprint as a venue. And then strengthen organizational brand. Both certifications really allow you to stand out as a sustainability leader and communicate all the work that you're doing easily. And lastly, the economics and social benefits both provide cost savings and efficiency, while also potentially increased revenues for attracting future events. And of course, social benefits for your community engagement and workforce training. So, and as you can see, we brought back those FIFA icons to indicate once again that all of these are towards the FIFA World Cup. But I think these are just a few of the many reasons that organizations will want to pursue these initiatives together. Sarah, I'll pass it to you to speak a little bit more about why Agendi and Greenwood have kind of put a position to do these certifications together.
Yeah, we love doing them together. I agree. So tying it up really quick, there's really great value in streamlining LEED and ISO in coordination with one another and doing a joint kickoff. Having a collaborative kickoff and meeting the same similar goals with the same stakeholders makes a whole lot of sense. Similarly, the integrative planning that's involved and having a unified plan that addresses shared requirements for both ratings is valuable and more efficient. Training, having an executed project that has tasks that provide a training where the project team and relevant stakeholders, again, let's do this together. And ultimately celebrating the certifications for both and looking to long-term planning needs. I'm going to pass it off to Dennis Williams. Happy to have him here. He's very patient. We only have 15 minutes left, so I will give you a quick introduction, let you introduce yourself, Dennis. It's been a pleasure knowing you and happy to have you here today to give us your perspective on sustainability at Pfizer Forum. I think you're muted though.
Yeah,
That's okay.
thank you.
Okay,
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to unmute or somebody would, but I found the button.
great.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here today. As mentioned, and so much great things have been shared in the last 45 minutes. A lot of the same shared values that we have here in Milwaukee at Pfizer Forum and for the Bucks organization. We chose we opened up an unbelievable building that was designed by tremendous architects, Populous, and we opened our building with the silver level in 2018. And as we were going through the first couple of years, we really were monitoring and seeing how we were operating as a building, in which when we were going through the recertification process in 2022, it was about, in the beginning, it was about um, extending the lifespan of our equipment as well as being good stewards in the community, if I'm being honest. And that was two things we were primarily focused on. But after the recertification and the awareness that was kind of brought to the organization and the attention that we received, it's really expanded into so many new partnership opportunities. It's one of the biggest things I always tell people outside of labor in these buildings, outside of labor costs, is our utility bills, as far as expenses. And we're always constantly monitoring those and seeing how we can lessen the bills. And today, NBA league requirements, with these athletes, high level athletes, playing in the buildings every night and providing experiences for them at certain comfort levels, as well as the fans that are in the buildings every night, coming to all of our events, whether they're professional sports, concerts, or family events that we do on a given night. We're active in the arena over 300 nights or 300 days a year, over 130 ticketed events, and everything kind of spread in between there. And so for us, the recertification and continuous monitoring is so much about making sure we're operating as efficiently as possible, making sure we're extending the lifespan of all of our equipment, and then providing that environment to the guests that are coming out every night and supporting the organization. So the why for us has been a lot of those things I had mentioned, and it's been an interesting process here in Milwaukee too. Just educating those within the organization, and in the community, on why sustainability is important. It's a constant uphill battle for us, but it's positive. It's positive for the community and us, and it's something that we're very committed to, as we continue to move forward.
You're a leader. You're definitely leading by example, and it's fun to be able to say that you're one of the very first stadiums to achieve the LEED recertification, especially at the gold level. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
I know we only have a few minutes left here, Colleen. Do you want to quickly try to tie this up and then we can get to Q&A?
Yeah, I would say it's Q&A time now, so we can provide a couple of closeout commentary while we'll give you the chance to start putting in your Q&A. So I think we've already have some coming in, but yeah, please use
Okay.
that Q&A feature. But to kind of quickly close out and wrap up all the great insights, thank you so much, Dennis, for sharing what all of this has really looked like in practice for you. We would like to drive home one last final time that pursuing these sustainability certifications, again, not only meets FIFA goals and other requirements, but drives long-term success. So for venue operators, you know that it's not just all about that one big game day. Your venue is operating 365 days a year. So Lead and ISO will help you be able to operate efficiently every day. And again, that long-term financial benefits as certifications deliver operational efficiencies, cost savings, and a competitive edge for attracting those future events. That'll mean increased revenue. And I think one of the last things to close out that's the most helpful about certifications is that they provide you with a framework to feel confident that you're doing the right thing. So standards define what great climate and community action looks like, helping to take a lot of that guesswork out. So having that certification enables you to very quickly and clearly communicate confidently all of the great work that you're doing, and that you're a leader in the space. Sarah, anything else that you'd like to close
Right.
out with some key takeaways?
No, I want to make sure we can get to the Q&A. So I think you summed it up really well.
Great. Okay, I think we are gonna have
Oh, do you recommend true certification? I'll take that one. I do. achieving a 90% waste diversion rate is very strict, but it can be overcome, and it is a great way to know, have a really good sense of if you have properly separated out your bins according to the volume of waste that's being generated on any given day. And then working closely with your waste haulers to make sure that what you have as far as infrastructure is aligned. So it's not, without effort, but it's definitely worthwhile and has high rewards. I think it can save venues a great deal of money and certainly space over time as far as what waste gets generated. And there's an opportunity for education and training of staff and fans, which can also be fun. Dennis, I don't know if you want to share kind of what we did at Pfizer Forum. You've done some really clever things to reduce waste, I know, and working with sponsors and things like that.
Yeah, our food digester, the Orca, was something we still use heavily to this day. But between food digesting to recycling to donating food products to looking at alternative products to reduce waste, finding different partners, as we said, the S.C. Johnson partnership where the beer cups were being converted into soap bottles, was a great partnership that we had for a while. Reduced plastic bottles to aluminum to sorting, has been a few of the examples, as you mentioned.
Yeah,
Nice.
great. Absolutely. I mean, it sounds ambitious, but it's something that we've seen so many stadiums accomplish. I'm gonna go to a question that we got from Anna. I think, Sarah, I'm gonna pass this question to you. So Anna asks, for lead, it is typically looking at the 12-month performance period of data in terms of monitoring performance against sustainability targets. Are we comparing data generated solely during the event, one day? For event venues, when an event of this size, would you be benchmarking only to comparable events? Mercedes-Benz is a new case study in Atlanta, in that it is already LEED certified. So,
Yeah.
Sarah, I know
So
you've got
maybe
this.
it's an ISO question too for events, but for lead, you're looking at a year's worth of data. So not a singular event, but rather all a year's worth of all your energy usage, water usage, waste, etc. And then if your venue is already certified, then you import that into the ARC tool. It is compatible with Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which is really convenient. And you can see in pretty close to real time how your property is performing compared to other properties around the globe. So you need a year's worth of data,
Mhm.
not a singular event, unfortunately.
And
It's
not as long for ISO potentially. So of course you need to take all that time to put together that proper plan. So that is definitely going to take more than an event. But in terms of that check process, you can check that against one or two different events to then have that internal audit that shows you, okay, what did I not achieve from that initial plan and how can I do it better to make sure that you're in compliance with that initial one. So you don't need as formal of like a year as you do with lead, but a couple of events in place to test that plan and make sure that you're going back and ensuring that you're meeting those requirements both by ISO and that initial plan that you put in place.
good
I'm
question.
seeing some more questions coming in. A question from Steph. Thank you for putting us together with detailed information. At this time, USGBC is actively working with all host stadiums, cities, and respective consultants on their LEED certification, sustainability needs, and prep for the World Cup. However, we strongly encourage and recommend that surrounding buildings and sites pursue sustainability initiatives as we approach the World Cup. So, yeah, I think this is more of just a great shout out on all the great work that USGBC is doing. But absolutely, I think that's what's so great about the FIFA World Cup's goals is that they're not just focused on the venue, but also all of the host cities engagement and how can we position for long-term success, but also the largest impact where we're engaging with all of those stakeholders and making a greater difference. So thank you for that, Steph. Anything else to add there, Sarah or
No,
Dennis?
I would agree.
Okay,
That's
a
great.
difficult
Thanks.
question coming from how can we convince stakeholders about sustainable initiatives when the budget is limited? Which I
Yeah,
think we can all
that's
take.
we can probably all relate to that question. Just like any project, I think it comes back to what are your goals to begin with? Setting realistic, tangible action goals across all categories, and then identifying what is the low-hanging opportunity and where can you make the greatest impact. So sometimes it's more beneficial to make a greater impact in one area than to try to spread it across all of them. It all again comes back to your goals. So that's my short answer. But I think, the other part I would mention is don't discount any financial incentive opportunities that might be out there. There's a lot of utility and state and federal incentives available. I know in this country, yes, there are some tournaments in Mexico too, but you should look locally and see what might be available, particularly through manufacturers and upgrading certain equipment. There's a lot out there to take advantage of.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, driving home that point that it's going to help position you for long-term success and attracting future events and sponsorships. And often the best way to communicate that to maybe your leadership or stakeholders is looking at your peers. So who are the leaders of maybe other venues or whatever type of organization that you are? What work are they doing and what is the impact for them? Because we all want to be competitive with our peers and be leaders, but absolutely, Sarah, I agree of figuring out what is the most important for you if your budget is limited. So when we were going through those steps for ISO, that's why we recommend engaging with your stakeholders and conducting a materiality assessment to figure out what is going to be the most important for your business and your stakeholders so that you're really focusing on the things that will really make a difference for your organization.
Great. We have
Great.
time for one more question.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see. Um, we've got a couple more. So a question is how long do the certifications last?
So for LEED, the V4.1 certification for existing buildings is good for 3 years, and then you recertify. There are annual maintenance type of requirements that are encouraged as well, but technically every 3 years.
Mhm. And it's the same for ISO certification. If you're pursuing that third-party certification, you would need that recertification every 3 years. But with ISO, recommend going for that third-party certification. So again, that you can communicate all of that great work that you've done and feel confident in it, but you can also still use that framework as a guiding principle to help put together that event sustainability management system without potentially having that certification. But it's also easy to remember, also 3 years is the same as lead. But I think we're at time here and we've answered most of the questions. So thank you so much to everyone for your active engagement and spending your Thursday with us. And oh, actually, I will pop to our next slide here so you can see our contact information. So any
Yeah.
questions that we weren't able to answer, please feel free to reach out to us. And we're happy to engage with any of the attendees to talk a little bit more about what could this mean for your organization. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Dennis.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Dennis. Thanks,
Thank
Sarah.
you.